At this time, we're very fortunate to have some great sponsors and partners for this event. I want to recognize Duke Energy, who has come on very recently as a partner in this effort, and we thank them for that. Upstate Alliance is our breakout sponsor and partner, and we appreciate them for their continued support. And then I mentioned, and you can see, and I'll mention it later on the back of your program, we have a lot of our partners, or a lot of the organizations who are engaged in this effort in Connecting Our Future are not only invested from a time standpoint, they also have invested from a financial standpoint, and we appreciate all of them and their support. And so we've been very fortunate to have, as we start this process, good support from our community. Certainly need to grow that, and we'll talk about that later. Another important partner for us has been Clemson University, and I'm very pleased to introduce, I guess, probably their newest employee, or one of their newest employees. You know, they probably hired someone in the athletic department this week, so he may not be the newest anymore. But he's familiar, certainly, to most of us in the room from his time at the Department of Commerce, and then most recently with the Port Authority. But now one of the newest employees from Clemson University, Jack Ellenberg. Jack?
Thank you, Dean. Good afternoon. Dean was gracious enough to give me a few minutes to kind of introduce to you what's going on at Clemson that is new. First of all, I want to introduce my colleagues, or at least point them out, that are here at the front. You heard from Fred earlier this morning. I think you're going to hear from him momentarily. But what I want to talk about very quickly is the new initiative that we have ongoing at Clemson that's going to impact all of us in this room. When you look at the strategic plan that Clemson has put in place, the Clemson Forward program, that strategic plan is all about engagement, engaging corporate partners at the highest level. That strategy is built upon the success of capitalizing off of our existing strengths, literally leveraging the assets that are Clemson University, our innovation campuses like CUI Car and Curie down in Charleston, our research centers, our faculty, our staff, and certainly our students. So to implement that, the ultimate goal being to impact in a positive manner economic development, not just in the Upstate, but across South Carolina and Southeast, and quite frankly, around the world. So what brought me back to Clemson after 22 years in economic development was a move by the Board of Trustees, who recently created a new division of external affairs led by Angie Leidinger, who is the Vice President at Clemson. That position affords us a position on the executive leadership team at Clemson and a voice at the highest level within Clemson. Now, the purpose of the Division of External Affairs is four primary areas. Government Affairs, which is led by my colleague Mark Cothran. Many of you know Mark from his time up here in Greenville. It will also be focused on strategic partnerships or corporate partnerships, strategic initiatives as identified by the Board of Trustees, and finally economic development. The last three of those will fall under my direction under this new office. Included in that are our innovation campuses, or at least our partnership offices at CUI Car. Fred and Rob are here today, as well as our partnership office at Curie, the Restoration Institute down in Charleston. So I am currently building my team. As Dean said, I'm one of the newest employees at Clemson. 2 weeks on the job, so I've already started building my team, building a team in Clemson, building a team here in Greenville, building a team in Columbia, and also building a team down in Charleston. And in essence, what we are becoming is a team of project managers to work with industry to grow opportunities. A one-stop shop for you all to be able to call on Clemson to tap into the resources across multiple academic departments and levels. How do we leverage our research centers? How do we leverage our innovation centers? How do we engage faculty? How do we engage staff? And ultimately, how do we include our students? It's not limited to large corporations. We want to be a resource to anyone seeking help growing, whether that's an entrepreneur looking to just get started or a Fortune 500 company that's currently in operation. We plan to step up and work with them. So, I'm excited to say that Clemson will now be actively engaged in economic development. I look forward to working with each of you every single day. Please do not hesitate to call. That is what we're here to do. And finally, I will tell you that after 22 years of wandering around doing economic development, first at the Department of Commerce and second at the Ports Authority, it is wonderful to be back home at Clemson University. I think those in the audience who know me well know that I have never been bashful about my allegiances, but I will tell you I am extremely excited to be able to officially say, go Tigers.
And you know, we're so fortunate to have a partner like Ken at the top here in the Upstate to help pull something like this together. Yeah, I've had the good fortune of knowing Carla Bailo for a number of years. She's been a technical force in the automotive industry for a long time. She was at Nissan for a number of years as the Senior Vice President of R&D in North America. She left Nissan a couple of years ago and went to work for The Ohio State University, where she's led initiatives in the central part of Ohio, namely in pulling together this Smart Columbus initiative, the Smart Cities initiative that many of you may be aware of. Carla was a champion for pulling that proposal together and actually winning that, and that's what she's going to talk about here today. She's also the Vice President of the Society of Automotive Engineers, SAE, it's a tremendously valuable organization to the automotive engineering community. And Carla came to ICAR for the first time, I think, back in February. She saw Greenville. She came to our offices at ICAR, and we've stayed connected ever since. And it is indeed my pleasure to invite her to come forward and talk about Smart Columbus. Let's welcome her.
I'm really happy to be here. As Fred said, I visited here last February, and I was so very impressed with the downtown area of Greenville, the walkability, the restaurants, the food, everything is great. I wasn't so impressed, though, with my ride from the airport here. So I'm really glad you're hosting this Transportation Summit. Now I have to start off for all my fellow Ohioans, OH? All right. And then in full disclosure, I'm a Michigander. And actually, it's already been publicly announced, but if you don't know, I'm actually leaving the university within the next month or so and going to that state up north, and I'm going to be at the Center for Automotive Research in Ann Arbor. But we'll still be collaborating a lot with Ohio, and I'll share a little bit about some of the initiatives I've started in the Midwest as part of my role. So I think I have to find my slides. Here we go. So I really want to talk about how we got in Central Ohio, how we arranged ourselves, the different ideas and different groups that had to come together to provide the Smart Mobility Initiative itself, which then led into the Columbus Smart City Challenge. So I have to start with a few definitions. Mobility, we often think of it as just the movement of people and goods, to get job to job, to get to shopping, whatever. But actually, mobility can provide levels of change in terms of social status and social equity. It will provide ladders for educational opportunities, for just sharing of knowledge. And I think we can't forget what role mobility has in the lives of the citizens. And then I define smart mobility as really the movement of people and goods with the 000 vision. And my 000 is a little bit different than Mary Barr's, but not much. And mine was first. But anyway, 0 accidents and fatalities, 0 carbon footprint, and 0 stress. And when I say 0 stress, that means for the driver, for the occupants of the vehicle, as well as for the vulnerable road users, the bicyclists, the pedestrians, those in wheelchairs, those with disabilities. So the question always comes, why smart mobility? Why do you want to have connected autonomous vehicles? And I'm an engineer, I love numbers. I'm going to be throwing a lot of numbers your way, and some of them you already heard depending which session you were in. But the first is clearly to save lives. In the US alone, we have about, I think last year, around 38,000 traffic fatalities. That doesn't include people injured and the cost associated with those injuries and the cost of insurance for those products. That's the equivalent of a 737 crashing every day. On a global level, we have 1.25, almost 1.3 million being killed every year. That's the equivalent of a 747 crashing every day. That's a lot of people losing their lives in traffic-related fatalities, with 94% of those being caused by human error, by humans doing something they shouldn't be doing. Now, one thing that's really interesting is we now have all of the advanced driver avoidance systems, lane departure warning, backup collision intervention, forward collision intervention. But because people don't understand what those systems do, and because they beep at them and that makes it annoying for them, 65% of people are turning those off. So we really have to do a better job of integrating humans with the machines and the things that we're using to keep them safe. One thing I neglected to talk about too under saving lives, we're becoming a very densely populated society. Maybe not here in this city as in some cities. I lived in Tokyo for 5 years. It's a small metropolitan area of 30 million people. But when we become more dense, rather than sprawling, we're going to go up. And that's going to make it very, very difficult to bring in emergency equipment when people need assistance, and or for emergency equipment to get in and see what's happening if there is a crisis. This, in the last slide, it showed a drone. That drone can actually be utilized to bring in EpiPens, to bring in defibrillators, to really bring in the emergency equipment before the actual EMT workers can get on site. And it's the same technology that we use in vehicles, that we use in drones, that we use in fly-by-wire aircraft. It's all the same. We're seeing the convergence of technology, so we need to learn from all the industries. My second big reason for wanting to do smart mobility, I always ask the question, do you know why 25% of elderly pass away? And most people say falls or something like that. The real issue is loneliness. And it's not precisely loneliness. But we live in an era where people are living longer. One of our largest growing segments of population are the 65 plus. We don't see that ending soon, but it does mean we're going to end up with a lot more people with either physical or cognitive disabilities. When people lose their independence and inability to get out and socialize, to get out and do the mundane tasks that the younger people struggle with, but for the elderly it's fun to get out and socialize, and shopping, getting your prescriptions filled, etc. When they lose that ability, then the physical ailments and the cognitive elements intensify and eventually will cause the seniors to actually pass away. So by being able to provide mobility for those that never had it, the people with disabilities, or for the elderly who have lost their ability to get around, is vital. This little product here is called Kenguru. It's an electric vehicle, very small. It operates like a motorcycle, so people still that have usage of their hands can drive this product. It doesn't go over 35 miles an hour. It can be made autonomous, so we could use it for people that have more severe disabilities as well. We're going to see more and more of these kinds of products, city, urban vehicles, becoming very prominent. We talked earlier about everything communicating. I was just in a session and the professor from Clemson was talking about in the future we're not even going to need traffic signals because everything's going to be communicating. We'll use swarm theory and everything can move about fine. Until we get to that point though, we really need to think about in the densely populated areas, having everyone communicating to know where you are to avoid some of the accidents and mishaps that happen today. And then this speaks for itself. Really, electric vehicles, when you talk about connected autonomous mobility as a service, this is the best product that we can be utilizing. But not only is this product important, the electricity we use to power it also is important. So the grid also has to come from sustainable energy. In Columbus today, we have 60% of our power coming from coal-based utilization. If I have an electric vehicle and I power it using coal electricity, my entire carbon footprint is bigger than if I have a very efficient internal combustion engine. So Fred, the internal combustion engine isn't dead until we fix that issue. We really have to get the energy suppliers, and in Columbus, AEP is a huge partner and is investing billions of dollars to clean up our grid and supply. And then we always hear about in eras of disruption, fundamentally people are going to be losing their jobs. We're worried about truck drivers, we're worried about others that are involved in certain things in the infrastructure. But every time we've had this kind of a revolution, we always find new businesses and new opportunities. And in academia, what I'm most concerned about is making sure that the students are trained and are thinking about all of these new opportunities, that they are going to be the entrepreneurs of tomorrow that we need. And that fundamentally, with data, as we heard today, $1.4 trillion is going to be available. We really need to make sure that our students are trained to do that. But not only that, even after you're in the workforce, we need to think about continuing education. We're in an era of exponential technological growth. And because of this, the existing workforce needs to be continually trained and quickly become outdated. So what are smart cities? The deployment of technology and data to improve people's lives. As engineers, we create a lot of great things, and we try to find a problem to then insert the technology. It's exactly opposite. You need to understand the problem you're trying to solve, and then use technology and data to enable that solution. We've often seen kiosks and things that have gone up that are now just great scientific monuments because it was a great idea. Somebody thought they could find a problem for it, but actually the problem didn't exist. So we want to try to avoid that in a city. You really want to try to avoid investing large sums of money when you don't really understand the problem and the solution will work. So within Columbus, there's a number of initiatives. To give you a little bit of background, I was asked to come to the university. This is a newly created position. It never existed before. We have a campus of 100,000 people. We have 56,000 students. We have several different colleges, and all of those siloed colleges don't communicate real well. So they said, come in and find out what everybody's doing in mobility, everything from exoskeletal up to drones, and come up with one or two big ideas we can work on it as a university and in conjunction with our government and industry partners. So I spent a couple months and talked to a lot of different academics about what was happening and found out we have one heck of a portfolio as a university that we could start immediately utilizing just within the Ohio or Columbus area. So one of the first things that I did, and really not knowing the area that well, I was transplanted there. I was new to Columbus. I'd only been there 4 months. So I said, who are the key stakeholders that we need to bring together so that I can launch a smart mobility initiative? The university has great skills. We have a Center for Automotive Research doing a lot of great work in autonomous connected products, robotics, sensors, wearable technology. We have a wonderful proving ground, 4,500 acres, Transportation Research Center. It's an asset of the university. It's 35 miles from the university. It's called Transportation Research Center. There was no research happening there. It was simply a shake it, break it, crash it facility, all physical, nothing being done virtually or in simulation.